Despite all the narratives, Donald Trump's in a great position to win the key swing state of Michigan. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today we have to talk about the 2024 presidential election because it appears that Donald Trump's in a great position to win Michigan. Yeah, that's right. The state of Michigan, which in 2020 was the most Democrat state of the big three. And when I say the big three, I'm talking about Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Of those three, Michigan leaned the most to the left. So if Trump is in a good position in Michigan, he's more than likely winning the presidency. Because if you look at the Electoral College, let's just say Trump's up in Arizona and Georgia, right? That's what most people agree as of now. That's even what the polls are suggesting, that Trump's up in Arizona, he's up in Georgia, and let's just say North Carolina as well. Well, even in that scenario that by some miracle Harris wins North Carolina, which I still find to be very unlikely, well, if Trump wins Michigan, do you really think he's gonna lose Pennsylvania or even Wisconsin? I find that very unlikely. Is it possible? I guess. But that's why it's a big deal if Trump is really in the lead in the state of Michigan, because if he's winning here, well, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, I would assume that they're probably voting for Trump, and at the bare minimum, at least one of them. There's a chance that the other one breaks for Harris, I guess. But even then, Trump can afford to lose Pennsylvania or even Wisconsin. He doesn't need to win both of them. He just needs to win one of them. And that's assuming that by some miracle, Trump loses North Carolina, which I highly doubt is going to happen. But if he wins North Carolina, well, he doesn't even need Michigan. He doesn't even need Wisconsin. Hell, you could argue he just needs Nevada. And no matter what happens in Arizona, Trump's got it. Now, this is a map that's not going to happen, but the point is, with Michigan, if Trump is really outright winning Michigan, which I think is a possibility, we'll get to why in a second, he's more than likely already up in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. That's a good chance that he's winning those states. He's probably up in Arizona. And even if he loses Michigan by like a half a point, well, I highly doubt that Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, they dramatically shift to the left. I highly doubt that. If Trump is doing 2 to 3 points better in Michigan, well, even if he does a point better in Wisconsin, that's more than enough to flip the state. So he can afford to lose Pennsylvania, which, again, I find that very unlikely, but I guess it's a possibility. The point is, though, Michigan's a big indicator for the election. If Harris is up by 2 to 3 points in Michigan, she probably is up in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, more than likely. But if she's up by only 1 point or just outright losing Michigan, she is in deep trouble. And that's why I believe of all the swing states, Michigan is a very important state that not enough people are talking about, because everyone's talking about Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia for obvious reasons. The campaigns are focusing the most on those states. But you could argue Michigan might be the best indicator for the Rust Belt. If Trump is barely losing Michigan, well, he's in a good situation in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. And at that point, he has the presidency locked down. Now, when you look at the current polling in Michigan, it doesn't look the best on paper for Trump. Right now, it's Harris plus 1.7. But just like a bunch of other swing states, it's the same pollsters. Marist and Quinnipiac, Harris plus 5. If it wasn't for those two pollsters being way outside the consensus, like seriously, Harris plus 5, when everyone else has a race like tied or Harris plus 1, maybe Harris plus 2, maybe Harris plus 3 in a best case scenario. How the hell do you get Harris plus 5? How? And of course it comes from Marist and Quinnipiac. But either way, the thing with Michigan polling is it sucks. Do people forget how bad polling in Michigan was in 2020? In the same time frame, it was roughly Biden plus 5, okay? Which on paper isn't that bad because he won the state by 2 points. But in late October, the polling was Biden plus 9. And look at some of the pollsters. CNN. I don't believe Marist actually polled in Michigan. I don't think Quinnipiac either, but more than likely, they would have had Biden +8, +9, +10. Like, look at this. Nearly every poll in late October except Trafalgar, they all had huge Harris leads, or I should say Biden leads. Look at this. The closest poll outside of Trafalgar in late October was freaking Epic MRA. And they had it Biden +7. So the most accurate pollster in this time frame was off by 4. What does that tell you about polling in Michigan? It sucks. And the average was only as close as it was because of insider advantage in Trafalgar. You know, the quote-unquote right-wing pollsters. Yeah, the pollsters that are more right-wing, they were the closest to the final result. Like, insider advantage, they were the best pollster. They had it Biden +2, he won by 3 points. Everyone else was saying +7, +7, +10, +12, +8. Hell, in 2016, it was just as bad, if not worse. Look at this. Clinton +11. This is insane. This is just Michigan polling. If it wasn't for Wisconsin polling sucking so much, everyone would be saying Michigan polls suck. They're the worst state polling-wise outside of Wisconsin. Wisconsin polling is awful, but this is a runner-up. Look at this. Clinton +12, +14, +10. But these same polls, they have it roughly Harris +1.5. If the same polling miss occurs that occurred back in 2020 and 2016, you're talking about a Trump win in Michigan. Now, does that mean that's going to happen for sure? No. But the fact is, compared to 2020 and 2016, these polls are actually pretty good for Trump. Especially compared to 2020 and 2016. I mean, back then, like I showed you guys, it was nothing but Clinton +12, +10, +8, and then Biden +9, +7, +7. It was trash. Yet the most accurate pollsters out of Michigan, right now, they have the race either tied or actually a small Trump lead. Insider advantage, which, like I said, back in 2020, they were the most accurate pollster in Michigan. Right now, they have the race Trump +1. Yeah, they found it Trump +1. Not Harris +5, not +7. They found Trump with the lead. Hell, the New York Times, which we all know, they overstate Democrats every year. They even found the race Harris +1. Like compare that to 2020. The New York Times back then, they had it Biden +8. Yeah, their final in Michigan was Biden +8. Yet, right now, they have it Harris +1. In fact, I believe it's a tied race when you include Jill Stein and Cornel West. Now, do you see the problem for Harris? She is not polling that good at all, especially compared to Biden or Clinton. Like a 1-point lead in Michigan, or I should say 2 points, that's nothing. Michigan can have big polling misses like it did back in 2020 and 2016. Hell, in the 2016 Democrat primary, they were off by like 30 points. I believe they had Clinton winning the primary, but she lost it. It was like, what? They're off by like 30 points? How? It's because Michigan polls suck, and not enough people talk about it. Doesn't mean we're going to see a 5-point miss again. No, it just means more than likely there's a chance if it's a 2-point miss, which is better than 2020 or 2016 at the same time, it would be a Trump win. But in my opinion, this isn't the biggest news out of the state because, yeah, it's pretty big, but you could argue, well, maybe, just maybe the polls are going to be spot on and it's Harris +2, which, again, if it's Harris +1 or whatever, more than likely that means Trump's winning Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. But fine, let's just say there's nothing wrong here. Quinnipiac actually correct for once. Maris is actually spot on. Fine. Let's ignore the polling for a second. There was a bombshell announcement last week that I made a whole video on a day before it even happened. For those that don't know, the mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, which is the only Muslim-majority city in America, the mayor of the city, who's a Democrat, by the way, he just endorsed Donald Trump for president. This was a week ago. Look at his statement. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear, so our expectations are realistic. President Trump and I may not agree on everything, but I know he is a man of principles. Though it's looking good, he may or may not win the election to be the 47th president of the United States, but I believe he is the right choice for this critical time. I'll not regret my decision no matter what the outcome would be, and I'm ready to face the consequences. For this and for many other reasons, I announce my support and endorsement for the former president and hopefully the next president of the United States, Donald Trump. Yeah. Amir Galib, the mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, put out this statement a week ago, and it took the world by storm. Everyone was shocked by this, because it's the mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan. This is a big deal because the Muslim vote in Michigan is a big voter bloc compared to other states. Is it 10%? No, but it is like 2 to 3% of the vote, which, by the way, Biden won Michigan by roughly 2 to 3%. Yeah. It seems like Muslim voters are starting to break for Trump, or at least they're voting against Harris. That's a big deal because, like I said, they make up roughly 2 to 3% of the vote in Michigan. And if they're breaking away from Harris, and not just even voting for Trump, but they're just voting for Jill Stein, Cornel West, whoever, some might vote for Trump, but either way, if they're not voting for Harris, she could be in deep trouble in Michigan because she's doing worse with a lot of demographics like white working class voters, African American voters. It's like, what demographic is she doing good enough with to counteract all of that? Especially in Michigan. Maybe she does slightly better in Ann Arbor, which I doubt, because it's already maxed out. Do you really think she could get 80% in Ann Arbor? I highly doubt that. Do you think she could crack 60% in Oakland? I don't think so. Especially if she's doing this much worse with Muslims, with African American voters, etc. I just don't think it's enough. That's why I'm confident that Trump could actually win Michigan. Obviously, it's not a foregone conclusion that Trump's going to win Michigan, but you just look at Michigan closely and it becomes apparent that, yeah, Democrats have a big problem here. Because they're doing worse with nearly every critical demographic in Michigan. Muslim voters, they're doing worse with African American voters, they're doing worse with white working class voters. You add all that up, especially in Michigan, that could be a complete disaster for Democrats. We just gotta see what happens, but if I'm the Harris campaign, I start to sweat a little bit because Michigan's one of those states that can have big polling misses, and demographically speaking, it has a lot of demographics that are trending towards Trump, and not just by 1%. African American and Muslim voters, there's a bunch of polls out there. They're swinging heavily towards Trump, or at the bare minimum, they're just voting against Harris. That's not a good combination, especially in Michigan. We do got to see what happens because maybe something crazy happens in Grand Rapids where Harris, wins 60% of the vote in Kent and by some miracle comes very close to winning Ottawa. I guess that's a possibility. But even then, I just find it so unlikely that's going to happen, but we'll see, I guess. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.